So I wanted to start out this video by saying thank you so much for being here and for clicking on this video. As of the time of me recording this, it is July 11th, 2023, and yesterday my YouTube channel passed 100,000 subscribers. I'm just so thankful for all of you guys. When YouTube was founded all the way back in 2005, I was only 11 years old and in 5th grade. My family didn't have internet for our home computer yet, but I do remember very clearly going to my best friend's house and him showing me YouTube for the first time. I don't remember exactly what video I watched, but I definitely remember being infatuated by the idea of a website where you could just upload whatever video you wanted. The possibilities just seemed endless, and it was just a mind-blowing concept at the time. My family would end up getting internet set up in our house the following year in 2006, and man, that was literally the time to be on the internet. YouTube was just popping off. All of my friends were on MSN Messenger, MySpace was the place to be, and the music of that era, oh man, don't even get me started. This is an era that I look back on with nostalgia goggles and I just miss it so much. But time went on, year after year. I remember seeing viral YouTube videos come across my social media feed left and right along the way, and there would be so many different YouTube personalities who would pop up and start to gain fame as well. It was always fascinating to me to see these different YouTubers and the wide variety of different content that was out there. I always thought the idea of starting a YouTube channel was really cool. I loved the idea of expressing myself creatively, but I lacked the skills at the time. Now, fast forward to high school, I would end up taking 2 years of video production, which would result in me learning a whole lot about not only film theory, but also video recording and editing. Everything from audio, video, editing, the whole 9 yards. I'm so thankful for that class. If I hadn't taken that class, I guarantee that I wouldn't be where I am today. I graduated high school in 2012, and it wasn't long after that I got a job in the food service industry. Ever since then, I've worked in a wide variety of jobs, all in customer service, and it wasn't until the COVID lockdown of 2020 that I would start a YouTube channel. I had been laid off from my previous job as a door-to-door salesman, and I decided that I would follow my dreams while I had nothing but downtime for the first time in a really long time. Honestly, when I first started this channel, I had no idea what I really wanted to do with it. I just figured that I would make whatever content sparked joy for me. My first video, which is private now so no one can see it, but it was me unboxing Dungeons & Dragons miniatures. It's a video that I look back on and it's so embarrassing, but I also love it because it was the start of this wild journey that brought me here to where I am now. I'm so happy that I did that. I'm so happy that I finally ripped off the band-aid and made that video. I put it off for such a long time. I had planned it for months. I put so much thought into how I wanted to do it, but I procrastinated it for such a long time because I was honestly scared. I always thought, why would anybody watch my content when they could watch someone else? Why would I be interesting enough for anyone to watch? I never thought that my channel would even reach 100 subscribers, let alone 1,000 times that. It blows my mind every day that people watch my videos. It's literally the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. This has literally been my dream since I was still a child, and I can't believe that I'm finally living that dream. I love making YouTube videos. This is my passion. I've had a passion for TV, movies, and video production since I was really young, and I'm so thankful that I've had the opportunity to do this. I am committed to this channel, and I will always be here. I'm committed to doing this myself, always. I'm never going to let an MCN manage my channel. I'm never going to pay someone else to edit or write my videos for me. I'm always going to make these videos on my own, no matter how much this channel grows, and I'm so happy that I can have that decision in my personal control. I'm really thankful to YouTube for allowing me this platform to make videos, and I'm thankful to all the animation studios, networks, and each individual employee involved in the production of every cartoon that I've ever talked about or will talk about on this platform. I'm thankful for fair use and my right to freedom of speech, but more than anything, I'm thankful for you guys. None of that stuff would matter if I didn't have you guys here watching my videos, and I'm so grateful that you guys are willing to watch and give me the opportunity to entertain you. I can't thank you guys enough, and I promise that I will never compromise the quality of my content. This channel will always be me and only me because this is my creative outlet, this is my passion, and this channel means more to me than I could ever say. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Now, I gotta be really honest with you guys, 100,000 subscribers is a milestone that I've been looking forward to for so long. As I've creeped closer and closer to it over these last few months, it's felt just surreal. And to have finally reached that achievement is just mind-blowing. This experience has been life-changing to say the least, and I'm happy that I've got to make this video to celebrate this moment with you guys. That's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, and to celebrate 100,000 subscribers, we're gonna look at my personal favorite episode of one of my all-time favorite cartoons. Recently, I've been making a lot of videos about the Powerpuff Girls, and it's reminded me of how much I loved Cartoon Network shows when I was a kid. I have a bunch of videos planned upcoming for Cartoon Network shows, but today I really wanted to look at one of my all-time favorite cartoons, Dexter's Laboratory. I've talked about this show before on my channel, but this time I am extra excited because we're looking at one episode that I would consider to be my personal all-time favorite episode of Dexter's Lab. In honor of my very first YouTube video that was about Dungeons & Dragons, we're looking at the episode called Dee and Dee Dee. This episode starts out with a horde of rabid goblins running down a dark dirt path in the middle of the night. They run up on a group of adventurers and they initiate an attack. The ranger fires arrows at them, whereas the paladin attacks with his sword and shield, and the warlock guides them through the passage and casts a fire spell.
Find us a way out! Hurry! We're through. Come on!
They have 3 doors to choose from, but before they can make a choice, a minotaur breaks through one of the doors and they break out in a fight. After the minotaur breaks the paladin's shield, the group decides to run until they encounter a bottomless pit. After they jump across it, the warlock casts a spell to make the minotaur miss the pit and he falls down it.
So, you've dispatched my minions, escaped my deadly traps, even defeated the dreaded scimitar. But you have yet to face me. Soraz, Master of Doom! Die, pitiful worms! Cheater! What? You dare defy
My whims? I am the game master. You are my pawns. I created the world you see before you. I control your fate.
As we see Dexter and his friends playing monsters and mazes, with Dexter being the game master, everyone calls Dexter a cheater and says that all he ever does is try to kill them. The group rolls their saving throws, but Dexter fudges his roll and nearly kills them in the process, lying about his rolls along the way.
Goodness, it's dark as a dungeon in here. How's your game coming along, boys?
Dexter's killing us.
Oh, lovely. Refills?
Yay, merrily. Another flagon of mead, please? No thanks. I still have some magic elixir.
Dee Dee walks up innocently and says hi to Dexter, asking what they're doing. His buddy says that they're playing monsters and mazes.
Neat. Can I play?
No! Sure!
Mom?
Of course, dear.
Can I be game master?
No! Sure!
Mom?
Of course, dear.
but I created this dungeon.
I think it's a good idea. Yeah, you heard your mom.
Fine. Look here, girl. This is the Game Master screen full of reference charts and graphs. Here is the rule books, the GM's guide, the magic manual, and the creature compendium.
Dee Dee pushes Dexter aside and sets down the DM screen upside down, clearly not caring as much as Dexter did. She then asks who is playing which characters.
I am Falcor, the hawk-eyed woodsman. I am Macabros, the mysterious magician. And I am Valerian, the chivalrous paladin.
Dexter, you'll need a character too.
I want to be Gygax, the 27th level warrior mage, with a plus 18 soul-sucking sword and...
Here you go. You can be this guy.
What?
The guys all laugh at Dexter, and when he starts to argue, they yell at him and tell him not to question the DM because she's in control of their fate. Dee Dee continues the story completely in a different place from where Dexter had them, as she just ignores his dungeon maps and story.
And you're walking along, and you,
Yeah,
and, a dragon comes out. And he's scary. Crazy scary. And he's coming to get you.
The group fights the dragon, as Dexter is literally no help, with nothing but a mandolin to fight the dragon with. Dee Dee suggests that he try his special skill, which turns out to be burrowing, as Dexter seemingly digs all the way to China. Back at the dragon battle, we see the group faring rather well until Dexter flies up and lands on the paladin's face. As the paladin starts flailing wildly, his blade cuts the dragon's head off.
And then candy starts spraying out of his neck.
Candy?
Surprise! He's a piñata.
My favorite. Hey, who are you?
Why, I'm Prillian Poppyseed, the precocious pixie prince. Thank you all for purging me from my powerless pinata prison. If only there was some way I could repay your noble deed.
The paladin asks if the fairy knows where the Holy Grail is, and the fairy decides to guide them to its mistress as it teleports the group to a bright and colorful magical land that belongs to a princess. The fairy tells the princess that the group of adventurers saved them, and the princess decides to reward them for it.
For you, brave knight. A mighty steed. For you, woodsman. A forest stronghold. And for you, magician. A lovely assistant and a lifetime of sold-out shows in Las Vegas.
Cool, so I must get the magic grail, huh?
Is that what you want?
Well, yeah, that's what we've been questing for. Wow, what's it do?
Well,
Dee Dee says that you can drink from it, and it will never spill. Dexter is pretty salty about that response, and he decides to throw a fit as he says that he is the true game master. Meanwhile, Dexter's friends are raving about how much of an amazing time they had playing with Dee Dee.
great! I got another game we can play.
Welcome to the mystery dating game, where our lovely bachelorette will choose one lucky bachelor for a fabulous mystery date. Bachelorette, quiz 'em.
Okay, say we're stranded alone on an island. Do you have any skills that would come in handy, Bachelor number 4?
I dig holes.
This episode is one that I really hold near and dear to my heart for just a plethora of reasons. First of all, this episode has always fascinated me ever since the first time I saw it. Even when I was really little and I saw this episode, it always made me want to try playing the game that they were playing, and I didn't even know what they were referencing. It just looked like a ton of fun to me. Then, eventually, when I finally learned what D&D was, many years later, I was able to connect the dots. However, even though I thought it looked cool, I was kinda terrified to try playing it because back then, in the early 2000s, D&D didn't really have the best reputation, to be honest. Like, back then, it was looked upon as the ultimate level of nerdiness if you played D&D, which is stupid in my opinion. I don't know why so many people held that opinion, but it's like one of those things where I personally remember encountering multiple people who were of that opinion. It was frustrating because, like, it would remain that way for many years. Then, in the late 2010s, that would seem to change, as shows such as Stranger Things would bring popularity to Dungeons & Dragons and normalize it to the mainstream. It's around that time that my friends started to show interest in playing the game as well, and we started our first D&D group. All of us mutually thinking, man, I wish we had played this back in high school when we had all the time in the world and didn't need to worry about scheduling conflicts with work. But D&D is definitely a game that brings me a ton of joy. Seeing this as a kid made me want to try it so much though. Seeing the cool fantasy world and the dice and the DM screen, it just looked like an absolute blast to me. I remember seeing Dexter trying to explain the DM screen when I was a kid, and I thought it looked so cool, and the idea of playing the game as the DM was just so interesting to me. And big shocker, nowadays I love being the DM, and it makes sense because I was a kid who was just infatuated with the idea even thinking about it. Thankfully, I'm not a jerk DM like Dexter is though. I can say for sure that as a kid seeing this, I remember being really obsessed with this episode because I loved playing pretend, and this episode ultimately centered around that. I especially enjoyed Dee Dee's DMing when I was a kid because her world was a lot more happy-go-lucky and positive, whereas Dexter just kind of wanted to kill all of the players. This episode had a certain feel to it that really made me enjoy it as a kid. However, watching it now as an adult, I have an all-new level of appreciation for it. I love the plethora of Dungeons & Dragons references in this episode. First of all, the game the group is playing is called Monsters and Mazes, which is a play on Dungeons & Dragons itself. But also it's a play on Mazes and Monsters, which is a novel released in 1981 and is actually an anti-D&D tale cautioning against fantasy role-playing games, which is largely based on misleading headlines at the time claiming that people were playing real-life Dungeons & Dragons and were suffering an ill fate as a result of the game. This novel would release at a time of major public uncertainty surrounding Dungeons & Dragons, and it would prove to be rather highly controversial as such. I need to put a disclaimer at this point, as I haven't read this book myself. However, from the research I did, this book told the story of the disappearance of a Michigan State University student as if it was actually surrounding his involvement in a game of Dungeons & Dragons as he disappeared into the steam tunnels of his school and was never seen again. Whereas he did go into the steam tunnels of his school in real life, it wasn't related to Dungeons & Dragons whatsoever. He had intended to end his own life in those tunnels, but when it didn't work, he ended up hiding out at a friend's house for several weeks. His parents had hired a private investigator who had theorized that maybe he went into the tunnels to play real-life D&D, but that wasn't based on any facts. However, the media didn't care, and they reported that theory as fact, which caused a lot of mass hysteria surrounding D&D at the time. A year later, a made-for-TV movie would be produced retelling the story, except this time it would be the story of a group of friends who plays D&D, and one of them, who appears to be suffering from schizophrenia or a similar condition, has trouble separating real life from fantasy. Fun fact though, this 1982 film, titled Mazes and Monsters, would be Tom Hanks' first leading role. Moving on from there though, we see a ton of other really cool references to D&D throughout this episode. At one point, Dexter and Dee Dee's mother walks into the room and she says that it's darker than a dungeon in there, which isn't necessarily Dungeons & Dragons specific, but I liked it so I threw it in there. When we see Dexter giving the reins over to Dee Dee, he explains the tables on his DM screen, and he starts to explain the reference books that he has, which one of them is called the Creature Compendium, which is a play on the Monster Manual from Dungeons & Dragons, or as it was called back in the day, the Monstrous Manual. I also loved the part where Dexter chimes up about the character he wants to play, which is Gygax, the level 27 warrior mage, which is a reference to Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. I also really appreciated the fact that Dexter's second character was named Hodo, the furry-footed borrower, which is a clear reference to Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. All of the fantasy references in this episode are just amazing, and looking back at it now that I'm an adult who's actually familiar with these references, I have a whole new enjoyment for this episode as a whole. Another thing that I noticed in this episode is the part at the end where Dee Dee pulls out that other game that she wants to play. It says Milton Brothers on the side of it, which is a play on Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers, both of which are board game companies and subsidiaries of Hasbro, which, fun fact, as of 1999, also owns Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that makes Dungeons & Dragons as well. All in all, this episode is just amazing. It paid homage to some of the greatest fantasy works of all time, and it did so in an enjoyable and digestible way. All in all, this episode proves why being a good sport is important and that no one wants to play with a spoil sport or someone who cheats. Dexter fudging his rolls was totally uncool, and I can't blame his friends for enjoying playing with Dee Dee more because at least she's her authentic self and doesn't feel the need to take out any aggression on them for anything. Dexter is a good example of what not to be as a DM for my fellow D&D players out there as well. Nobody likes that jerk DM who seems to always have to get the upper hand and punish their players relentlessly. Of course, some punishing is okay, obviously, but showing up out of nowhere and instantly inflicting damage as your own character without rolling any attack rolls or initiative is a total jerk move. All things considered though, I can safely say that this is my all-time favorite episode of Dexter's Laboratory, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. There is a couple things that I have to bring up though. This episode reminded me of something that's been on my mind for a little while now, and I've been meaning to bring it up to you guys. I've been thinking for a hot minute now about making another channel. I kind of want to make long-form deep dive videos about video game lore and history. I'm talking 2 to 3 hour long videos about the Fallout franchise, Elder Scrolls, Resident Evil, Zelda, maybe even a deep dive on the Call of Duty Zombies lore. The big thing that made me think about this though is the fact that we're talking about D&D right now, and Baldur's Gate 3 is about to drop here next month, and I bought it way back when it was in super early EA, and this video game is just amazing. I love this game so much, and I would love to make some really long videos diving into the deep lore of it, but I definitely have to do it on another channel. And it would be more of a side project to do for fun, because my main channel will always be my primary focus. But like, I guess I'm wondering if that's something you guys would be interested in? Let me know in the comments down below if that sounds like something that might be up your alley. I know I would definitely have to do some videos about the Rugrats video games and the SpongeBob video games, of course. Ultimately, that would be something that I would have to do when I have a lot more spare time though, because working full-time at 911 and running this channel in the background like I'm doing right now literally leaves me with absolutely no time to play video games. So I guess with that being said, shout out to my Patreon though. For as little as 14 cents per day, you can support me in my goal of retiring from 911 and focusing on YouTube full time. I'll link it down in the description box below. There are 3 tiers currently with all sorts of cool perks, including early access to some of my videos here on YouTube, and exclusive videos that you can only see by being a patron. On that note, here's a huge shout out to the patrons in my true 90s kids tier. You guys are the best, and a huge thank you for your support. I said this in another video a while back, but my goal is to move myself, my wife, and our 2 kids to a nice spacious house on a big plot of land, hopefully in middle America, where land is a little more affordable, and where I can afford to focus on YouTube full time so I can devote more energy to the long videos that I love making so much, as well as hopefully more content across other platforms and channels. I really want to be able to make more Dark Side of Hey Arnold videos, and I want to be able to review Season 2 of SpongeBob, and I want to just make more really long videos in general, but it's hard for me to squeeze in time to make those on top of a full-time 40, 50, 60 hour a week job depending on how bad my mandated shifts are, and on top of that, the job's been taking a bad toll on my mental health as well, which leaves me in a tough situation where sometimes it's hard to find the drive to work on these videos because mental health can be a really tough battle. But regardless of that, I guess what I'm trying to say is I would just love to have more time to be able to devote to this because I love making YouTube videos, and making content is really where my passion lies. And, well, with this being my 100,000 subscriber special, I really just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I really can't put into words how much this channel means to me, and how honored I am that you guys really take interest in any of the words that just seem to fall out of my mouth sometimes. I appreciate you all more than these falling words could ever say, and I can't wait to go on more nostalgic walks down memory lane with you. I just wanted to say that I'm considering doing another Q&A video as well. the last time I did one was for 10,000 subscribers, and I only got like 4 questions, so I guess if you guys are interested in that, leave me some questions down in the comments, and I'll totally do it if I get some good ones. Other than that though, what do you think? Do you remember seeing this episode of Dexter's Lab when you were a kid? Did it make you want to try playing D&D? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. If you enjoyed this video, then do me a huge solid and maybe share it with your friends, or just give a little praise to that YouTube algorithm in hopes that it pushes this video to everyone else, and as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.